Hello, everyone. We'll get started in just a moment. I just want a second for everyone's audio preferences to get settled, whether they're using computer or phone audio. All right, that looks like a pretty good critical mass. So I'll make sure that I type this out for people that are joining a little bit late, but welcome to today's webinar. Before we get started, I just want to cover a few technical details in case you haven't joined us for one of these or if you haven't used Zoom webinar in the past. As attendees, your cameras and microphones are disabled by default. So you don't need to worry about interrupting us. You don't need to be worried about being seen, but that does mean you're limited to text interactions with the presenters today. So or with attendees for that matter. So your two main options are using the chat and the Q&A. For chat, that's great for general comments or discussion. It defaults to only the hosts and panelists. So if you want everyone to see your message, make sure that you select everyone from the dropdown. And then for any questions that you might have, we ask that you use the Q&A button. If you pop that up, you can ask a question at any time. You can ask those anonymously, you can view existing questions, and you can thumbs up and comment on them if you'd like to as well. So like I said, I'll make sure I type those out again for people that are joining a little bit later, but that's the basic rundown. Otherwise, you just get to sit back and enjoy. So I'd like to, very pleased to work with Kwali student on today's webinar around curriculum management. Curriculum management processes are critical and complex. While these processes serve a vital function, the complexity lends to challenges and inefficiencies. Despite the challenges and inefficiencies, the processes can't be done away with. So in this webinar, we're going to try to identify common curriculum process challenges and discuss ways to streamline those processes and wrap up with some institutional success stories. And obviously, if you've got some, feel free to share them. Let me introduce today's presenters. First, we have Heather Anderson, who's a community engagement coordinator at Kwali student. And then we also have Joni Schaefer joining us, the vice president of sales at Kwali student. So without further ado, I'd like to hand it off to Joni to get us started. Joni?
Great, thank you, Mike. I just want to start by extending a warm welcome to everyone. So thank you for joining us today. As Mike mentioned, my name is Joni Schaefer, and I'm a consultant with Kwali. I have about 10 years of experience in the ed tech market, so I recognize a lot of familiar names on the webinar today, so I'm excited to be joined with all of you. We work with institutions to really find the right solutions for your needs. So our portfolio at Kwali includes multiple business or product lines with modules that are really designed for higher ed by higher ed. Today, as Mike mentioned, we're representing our Kwali student product line, which is focusing on our Kwali curriculum management module. So Kwali student also encompasses our academic catalog management, syllabus management, and a form and workflow solution for other processes that are on your campus or performed in your office. So by the end of our time today, we really hope that you're going to gain some insight into how other higher ed institutions have streamlined curriculum management utilizing a curriculum management solution. Heather and I are very passionate about what we do, and she has a few exciting use cases and case studies to share with you today. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our main presenter, which is Heather Anderson, to provide a brief introduction before kicking off the presentation. Thank you. Heather?
Hi, thank you. I'm Heather Anderson. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator at Kwali, and my background is actually in a registrar's office. I was involved in all aspects of curriculum, starting at the curriculum approval process through the display of that curriculum on degree audits in our student information system and the academic catalog, and ultimately graduating students using that approved curriculum. When I started there, we had a paper process, and I was the one trekking through the snow on campus with binders in my hands, trying to chase down department chairs and get signatures and keep all the papers dry. I then was involved in getting that information into the various systems on campus. And then my least favorite part, proofreading the catalog page by page. And that was my experience for the first 4 years. Halfway through my time there, we implemented Kwali's curriculum and catalog management software, and it's still surprising to me that we ever survived without it. Throughout this webinar, I'll be sharing several of my own experiences with the different curriculum processes and the solutions that completely changed my office. So today we are going to walk through 4 different processes associated with curriculum management, discuss ways to streamline those processes, and share successes that institutions have experienced. So as I mentioned earlier, I spent nearly 8 years working with curriculum, and a large portion of that time was spent specifically managing the curriculum change and approval process, followed by the display and enforcement of that approved curriculum. Having played part in the many pieces that fit together to create a successful curriculum cycle, I feel like I could do a 12-hour-long webinar just about the challenges. But today we're going to take a deeper look into just 4 of those processes. So first, curriculum committee meetings. So many meetings. And because curriculum affects every aspect of an institution, it's critical that all aspects of curriculum change are appropriately reviewed. And that means committees have to exist, and therefore committee meetings have to exist. But can anything be done to make them more effective or shorter or asynchronous? And we'll get to that in a second. Second, manual data entry. Again, curriculum touches every corner of an institution, and in each of those corners, there's a different system, software, or process. I spend hours and hours each curriculum cycle entering the approved curriculum into our SIS, LMS, or any other 3-letter acronym you can think of, and then again into our academic catalog. I would like to think I did a pretty good job, but I know that I made mistakes. So what if there was a way to remove that middle person to make less mistakes and have more time for other projects and priorities? Third, maintaining versions and records. Unfortunately, the past doesn't just disappear after a while, and there's always a need for someone somewhere to need to know what happened years ago. When I started in the registrar's office, we had shelves full of binders. And although they were well organized, it was still a lengthy process to dig up the information I needed, if I could find it at all. The other challenge I found with this was keeping outdated information separated from the current curriculum. So making sure that faculty members or department chairs had the most up-to-date information before requesting changes, and to ensure that students were looking at the most accurate information on the website or catalog, and having a good answer when someone inevitably asked, well, who approved that? The final challenge I want to talk about is curriculum relationship management. I'm not talking so much about relationships between people like the registrar's office and academics, although that can also be a challenge. I'm talking about the relationship within the curriculum itself. For example, it's not as simple as just discontinuing Math 101, right? Well, what does that mean for general education or the mathematics major or that nearly forgotten math certificate that 3 students earn each year? There are always ripple effects of curriculum change, but how can those ripples be proactively identified? Okay, so we're going to talk a little more about each of those 4 points and actually share some solutions. Okay, we are going to put up a poll here. And I just want to know, on average, how many meetings are you in each week? It doesn't just have to be curriculum related meetings, but all meetings that you're in. And then we'll show those results once they're completed. So 0 to 4 hours, 5 to 9, 10 to 14, or more than 15 hours a week.
I put the Jeopardy music up to my microphone for you.
Thank you.
I'll be closing the poll out in 5 seconds.
Okay, so the result, wow, 17% actually have more than 15 hours a week in meetings. That is a lot of meetings. I'm jealous of the 30% that only have 0 to 4. So I know all of those meetings are not necessarily about curriculum, but when you have over 15 hours of meetings per week, every minute counts, right? So 1 or 2 shortened or canceled meetings can make a really big difference. Now back to these curriculum committee meetings. These are very necessary conversations. The review, collaboration, and approvals are required for curriculum, but the time spent in these meetings can be hundreds of hours. So the challenge is that we need to maintain the purpose of these meetings while also trying to make them more efficient. The solution then is to leverage a digital solution that allows for the same conversations to happen outside of a formal meeting. So let's think about this for a minute. Curriculum committee meetings, at least the ones that I was involved in, were all about getting all the right perspectives, touch points, and stakeholders in the same room. As changes to curriculum are proposed, it's critical that overlaps between departments and programs are identified, and just getting all those different perspectives on campus. So how great would it be to have a way to have all of those same conversations with all of those same people, but not have to do it in a formal meeting? So being able to move those conversations into collaborative agendas and in proposal commenting to let that back and forth conversation happen. And for those committee meetings that have to be in person, no matter what, having structured and interactive agendas that allow that meeting to be efficient and effective. And then robust reporting to let any users pull all relevant information on their own. That allows all members of these committees to find the information they're looking for without having to ask, without having to bring it to these meetings as an agenda item. And putting all the information in the hands of those who need it when they need it. And finally, a flexible workflow that automates the pass it to the next person portion of these meetings. So not having to spend time asking, wait, who takes this next? Or does it have any of those weird pieces that we need to tell Joe next door about? But letting the digital solution do all of that for you. Let the software pass it to the right person or people without any effort required on your part. Okay, time for another poll. And this time I want to know how many systems on campus that you're aware of that use that curriculum and course data. So 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5 to 6, more than I can count.
Pretty good. I'll close us out in about 10 seconds here.
Okay, so it looks like the majority said about 3 to 4. We have a few that said 1 to 2, a few that said 5 to 6, and a handful of people that said more than I can count. I felt like I fell into that last category of more than I can count when I was trying to put curriculum into systems from the registrar's office. So yes, there are a lot. And I'm preaching to the choir here when I talk about the hassles of entering data into multiple systems. Everyone on campus uses curriculum in their day-to-day. And because everyone has their own purpose for it, they may require it in a different format. But having a person manually entering that data in each of those different systems is an invitation for disaster. Manually entering that data is, 1, extremely time consuming, and 2, it guarantees that mistakes are going to be made. The solution here is to use integrations that push the approved data into all of the systems at your institution. APIs ensure that accurate data is coming directly from the source of truth into all of those systems. So having everything housed within a single source of truth, in this case, a digital solution, where those messy conversations and back and forth can happen. But then once it's approved, that data is automatically updated in all systems across campus. This ensures that everything matches. No need to go through a checklist of people to notify or systems to update each time a change is approved. Once approved, changes can be automatically pushed everywhere that curriculum is used. The academic catalog is another location where it is vital that the most up-to-date curriculum is displayed. Having a catalog that is dynamically built directly out of the curriculum management solution eliminates the need to start from scratch each year and ensures that the displayed information is always in line with that source of truth. All right, the third poll, stick with me here. So this time I want to know how important it is for you to know the historical context. Do you ever find yourself wishing you could have been a fly on the wall for a conversation or a decision, or knowing what was going on at that moment? And there are several options. We have not important, seems important, very important, or absolutely critical.
Yeah,
I like seeing how this compares to what I feel.
yeah, no, for sure. I would say from a programming standpoint, sometimes looking at code written 5 to 10 years ago can be absolutely baffling as to why they did certain things. So
yeah. Okay, our results. Oh, good. No one said it's not important. I agree with that. A handful of seems important, a lot of very important, and the majority, 45%, said absolutely critical. I agree. I can't even count how many times I wish that I knew context from previous decisions. So I needed something that provides access to previous conversations, the comments on and revisions to proposals, or even just knowing 3 years ago what was being enforced. I would have students come to us years after taking a course and say, hey, I thought this was a 3-credit course, but now my degree audit shows that it's only 2 credits. And they're about to graduate and they took this course 4 years ago. Well, how can we find that information? What was it 4 years ago? And that was when I would go to my stack of binders and flip through 100 pages and hope that I can find the documentation I need. Or try and find that one department chair that's been with the university for 25 years and might remember what happened back then. And like we were talking about previously, it is so challenging to keep the most up-to-date proposal version available. I don't know how many times, sorry, I don't know how many times I received proposals for change from faculty members or department chairs, and it was based off of out-of-date information. And it wasn't their fault. They just didn't know where to find the current version. And it wasted their time and it wasted our time, and we'd have to go back and redo work. So we need to be able to see that most up-to-date information. So the solution is to implement a digital solution that will show you the most up-to-date proposal version with timestamps on all edits, comments, and approvals. Having something that automatically shows you the current information, but also allows you to easily go back in time and see what it used to be. So what happened 2 years ago, and have all of those conversations and that context on hand. Nothing was better than having a good answer when people would ask me, well, who would approve that? Or why was this approved this way? Well, why did they say yes to that? Rather than just saying, I don't know, it wasn't me. I just have to do what they tell me. And being able to access this data for reporting. So looking at how many times this course has been changed in the last 10 years. How many times have we changed the credit amount? How often do we mix up the prerequisites? Pretty much how confusing are we making this for our students? and being able to have all of that information housed in a single place. Finally, our last poll. With this one, I want to know if you have encountered unintended consequences. I know I saw them with students or faculty members or moms of students, and it's, yeah. So the options are no, yes, but not often, yes, sometimes, or yes, frequently. And this is anonymous, so nobody knows if you've seen a lot or if you don't.
I'll keep it open for another 5 seconds here.
Okay. So the majority has answered yes sometimes, with yes frequently, followed by yes, but not often. It is so unfortunate, right? That the reality is that things sometimes slip through the cracks and people are negatively impacted. All elements of curriculum are connected, and this creates a huge ecosystem and makes it very complicated to change any of those elements. Those ripple effects we talked about, they're real, they are there, and hidden dependencies can have big implications if they slip through the cracks. Keeping an eye on the overall web and anticipating the ripples is not easy, but that understanding is critical. So the solution here is to leverage a digital solution that will tell you what those ripple effects are, instead of you having to try to figure it out. So moving the responsibility of remembering everything your institution offers and how it's all connected off of your shoulders and into a software. In my experience in the registrar's office, we used this sometimes just to create awareness and maybe push back on some requested changes. Not necessarily to say we aren't going to do it, but to suggest we have an additional conversation because there are more consequences we need to anticipate. And to just share those ripples and make sure we're coming at it from all angles. And ultimately to make sure we're making this a smooth process for the students in the end. Another way I utilized this dependency analysis was to make sure I covered all my bases, even if it wasn't that big of a change, just to make sure that we did find that one random certificate we thought was discontinued but isn't, and students are actually still getting it. Or being able to find those and know that, or know everything that's going on within that entire curricular ecosystem. Okay, so now on to some institution success. So each institution approaches their curriculum processes in unique ways. So the approach to process challenges will be unique as well. So I want to take a look at 4 institutions that have, they've addressed each of the 4 processes that we have been talking about. I'm going to start us off with Murray State University. I know there's a lot of text on these next few slides, but I'm just going to give a quick summary, and the slide deck will be made available after the webinar where you can review all this information at your leisure. But I want to take us back to that first process we discussed, curriculum committee meetings. So Murray State University had a paper process with curriculum meetings and manual work. And when COVID hit, they had to very quickly move to remote work, as did all of our institutions. And they were worried, what do we do? We have meetings and our curriculum cycle that still needs to happen. And they selected Kwali Curriculum and Catalog Management as their digital solution and found that they were able to utilize the reporting, agenda, and commenting tools. And not only was it easy to use and their data stored more efficiently, but they actually saved over 200 hours of meeting time. And Ashley Rogers, the assistant registrar, shared, "I never felt the lack of face-to-face meetings prevented us from moving forward with anything." The next university is Southern New Hampshire. I'm going to take us back to the second process we spoke about, manual data entry. So SNHU had plans to expand. They wanted to create new programs and increase the languages their offerings included, but they did not have the time or resources to bring that plan to fruition. They found that Kwali curriculum and catalog management helped them both decrease errors associated with manual data entry and dramatically decreased their manual tasks. Through integrations and automation, they were able to process 2,000 competencies and 800 proposals while still saving an average of 3 weeks per year. And that gave them the time and resource to add new curriculum and forward the institution's goals. Mike O'Connor, the Systems Analytics Director in the Registrar's Office, said, we wouldn't have the resources to do this kind of project, at least on the curriculum side, if we were managing everything manually and doing the communication that Kwali does. The third institution is the University of Victoria. This success falls in line with our third process we discussed, maintaining versions and records. The University of Victoria manages multiple complex curriculum processes and cycles at once. Using paper-based processes, it was challenging to keep track of the most current proposals. The process included multiple email chains, physical paper forms, and lacked a reliable database to capture and report on data. The university determined a new solution was needed, and Kwali Student fit their need for a flexible, robust solution. And they were able to introduce reporting and transparency to give all users the information they needed with a click of a button. And James Wigginton, the curriculum and calendar manager, shared that by using Kwali, we were able to configure a workflow that is the same for everyone, but has enough flexibility to meet everyone's needs. It made getting everybody on board that much easier. The beauty of Kwali is that we're always looking at the right proposal. There's no chance that somebody is looking at an outdated source. And finally, Leeward Community College. So this falls in line with our fourth process we discussed, dependency analysis and curriculum relationships. So Leeward had a homegrown system that was built on outdated technology and lacked visibility. They struggled locating curricular dependencies and had an extremely time-consuming manual approval process. Leeward needed a new solution built on new technology to facilitate a better curriculum for the students they served. With Kwali Student, Leeward was able to move everything into a cloud-based software that was configured to their business processes specific to their community college. And especially, they were able to locate hidden dependencies before they affected students. And not to mention the hours they saved in removing those manual processes. Peterson Gross, the curriculum chair, said, dependency analysis makes it so much easier to help students go through their program, and it has implications for financial aid. So if you're interested in learning more about how you can streamline curriculum processes at your institution, we invite you to visit our website at www.kwali.co/student or send us an email at experience@kwali.co. And now I will turn the time back over to Mike to facilitate our Q&A.
Thanks, Heather, for going through all that. It was really informative. And I just want to throw another reminder out there that if you do have any questions, you can feel free to put those into the Q&A at any time. Those can be asked anonymously if you'd like to, or you can actually attach your name to them. So yeah, I see our first one there. Did you find that you needed to evolve your processes over time after implementing?
Yes. It is so good to choose a solution that is flexible, that allows you to iterate over time. Processes are always changing. For example, with workflow. So if there's an easy way to update the workflow process without involving IT, like an easy drag and drop, then it becomes possible to evolve those processes and make those changes. I'll say I have never been an IT person. I'm just not very good with that kind of stuff. But yet I was the one in charge of reiterating processes. So having a flexible solution that helps you do that is, yeah, that's big.
Perfect. And I saw the, will the vendor be at Acro in Portland, Oregon? And I believe that answer is yes. Joni, if you know any information about where you'll be in the exhibit hall, or if there are any sessions they should look out for.
Yes, that's correct. We will be at Acro. So Heather and I will be representing Kwali students in the booth at 6:07. So please stop by and say hi. We're actually going to also be supporting our One Tree campaign. So we've partnered with One Tree Planted in order to kind of elevate impact in partnership with all of you. So by stopping by the booth, you can sign your name, and then for every person that signs their name, we will go ahead and plant a tree on behalf of that person. So then the idea is that you plant a tree with us and you save paper with us. So hopefully we're elevating the impact and partnership together for a sustainable and better future. So we hope that you'll stop by to definitely say hi. That's a great question. Thank you.
It's a great initiative too. I'm glad you guys are doing that. And it's very fitting in Oregon, obviously, as well. It should be fitting all the time, but it's thematic for sure. So thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
We have another question here. How does your system compare to other curriculum management competitors like Curriculog? What sets you guys apart?
Yeah, that's a great question. I used to actually work at another vendor institute or another vendor in the market as well. So I've got quite a bit of experience and time in the market. And the reason or what really attracted me to Kwali was that it was fresh, it was modern. The software is actually cloud native. So it was not only built for the cloud, but it's also hosted in the cloud. So it's really about kind of having that sustainable module that's kind of future proof and building in partnership with higher ed. So the software is all designed in partnership with higher ed. So designed by higher ed for higher ed. And I would say that was the strongest thing that really kind of attracted me to the company, to joining the company. And then some other things that kind of set us apart, just to name some, just a few things briefly, is it's really, we like to say it's one place, one solution. So instead of having to navigate out to different URLs or ask people to go to different sites, you really just lead your team to one page, one website, and then it's you can access through what's called an app switcher. So you can click on curriculum or you can click on catalog, whatever it is that you need to work on sort of behind the scenes. So that's another one of the kind of biggest differentiators. And Heather, I don't know if you have one that you'd like to, one or two that you'd like to mention.
Yeah, another one that I would mention would be the drag and drop interface of our workflow. It's not like anything I've ever seen. And it was a big deal. Like I mentioned in the previous question, I am not an IT person, and I was in charge of reiterating our workflow. And it's a simple drag and drop interface that allowed me to do it without ever having to talk to IT, without ever having to ask for help. So that's another thing I would mention as a difference. Yeah.
Great.
Thanks. And going to this other one, and the attendees asked, they're sorry if they missed this because they had to step away, but does Kwali offer data analysis on course schedule changes? And are those changes tracked as fed, who made them, when, what type of change was it? Or is there reporting on those changes?
Yeah, and that's another great question. Right now we have our curriculum management system, our catalog management, and then a brand new module, which is for syllabus management. Our future is to plan towards working on a module for scheduling, both from the administrative perspective and from a student registration perspective. So when we get to that point, we'll be able to definitely capture that type of information or data. At this time, you can capture and track that type of data at the course level with our curriculum management module, or if it's included, on your course form, or you're collecting that data on a program form. You can also do that in the syllabus management for your section level data if you're tracking, again, that data in your different types of forms that you're submitting to set up your kind of course outline level or your section or offering level of that data as well. Yeah, great question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Anonymous there. We have one in the chat, and I'm not going to try to pronounce this name. It is there are too many vowels and consonants together for me. But does Kwali speak to most SMSs and I'm guessing student management systems there, or SISs perhaps? But yeah, if you can speak to that.
Yeah, I can. Sorry, I can speak to this one. So yes, Kwali it uses open APIs and REST APIs to be able to integrate into any of those systems on campus. So there's the capability to connect to any student information system or those LMS or SMS or whatever system you're using.
All of the acronyms.
All of the acronyms, yeah.
We do have a dedicated SIS connector as well. So that can kind of take that data then from the system and into your student information system, whether that's Banner, Colleague, Oracle, PeopleSoft, Workday, Genzibar, Homegrown, any of those systems. The idea is that as long as your system can accept or the API, then you're able to connect that data with your system.
Yeah, great, thanks. Hopefully that seems like it plays well with pretty much everything.
Yes, definitely. And that was one of the intents of the software, was really to build a solution that it's not custom software, so that it doesn't have the additional expenses and the additional complications or complexities when trying to connect to other systems. We focus on being able to customize the software through tailoring and configuration. So it's really about tailoring to each unique institution through configuration, so that you're not having to worry about those complexities that make it difficult to connect with other systems.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for that question. Another good question. And going back to the Q&A, this one's for Heather. In your role at the institution, what reports were you asked for? And were those kind of frequent requests?
Yes, I would say it was more frequent before we had a system in place. Everybody wants to know information for any big decision. Once having a new system, though, they were able to pull those reports on their own. So they didn't have to come to me as often to create it and to send it over to them. Examples of reports were like courses that had changed prerequisites in the last, time frame, or which proposals are at specific steps in the approval process. And another report you could create is courses that are missing information. So courses that are missing learning outcomes. They don't have anything connected to it, or they're missing a reason for their course fee. Being able to find pieces of proposals or specific items and grouping them together. And really having a system that allows you and your users to create any report that you want with any of the information that's in that proposal, that's extremely valuable.
Great. And there's another one. So did using a curriculum or a catalog system help you in preparing for accreditation?
Yes, accreditation is no joke. It is a big process. And having a system definitely streamlined that process and saved us time. Some of the benefits I would include are the ability to have tracked changes and to have that versioning, and then proof of record. So being able to clearly see who approved what when, and a catalog copy, and then having an accessible catalog. That was another big deal.
Awesome, thank you. And while we wait for another one, I guess one question I was kind of thinking through is some institutions might have specific requirements for approval, and in a lot of ways those can be unique. Does the workflow, are they able to handle those kind of complexities?
Yes, that is a big deal as well, because every institution is different. Every institution has their own reasons for things, their own approval process, different state requirements or system requirements. And having a workflow that is flexible and is able to be tailored through that configuration that Joni was talking about earlier, being able to meet all of those different pieces. So it can be as simple or as complex as is needed by your specific institution.
Okay, thank you. We have another one here. What are some of the features to look for in a new system that benefit individual users?
Yeah, so when looking for a system, I think there's a lot of different pieces. Every software has important things, but I would say number one, having a transparent system. So having something that everybody can see and have that context on hand, offering or something that offers dependency analysis. That was really big for my university, that keeping an eye on that curricular ecosystem. Personalized dashboards. So being able to have each user right away see the information that they're looking for. And then probably actually the most important, access to reporting. So being able to see all of the information, pull it out in whatever format you need for whatever purpose you need it for. Those I think are the four things I would say.
And Heather, do you want to explain a little bit on what dependency analysis is?
Yes, so that dependency analysis is the curricular ecosystem, those curriculum relationships, meaning if you change a course, well, what programs is that course in? What are the requisites to that course? Those different connections within the curriculum to, just to make sure that you know all those ripple effects that we had talked about in the previous part of the webinar.
Yeah, absolutely. Things that are much easier to do with a digital solution, difficult to do if you're trying to do that manually, almost impossible. It really is impossible, actually.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, at the very least, impractical.
Right, yes, definitely. That would be your entire job, I think, if you were just documenting, where does Math 101 impact?
Yeah, I think of those people that have like the pins and the strings on their walls. That's what it's like.
It's a crime scene. It really is.
Yeah. No. Let's go through here. So I guess it's kind of a follow-up. Does that mean that you can also find courses that might have updated course as a prerequisite and get those updated as well? That would be amazing.
So there is the capability to identify all of those connections. So yeah, prerequisites, well, any type of requisite. And the way that Kwali is set up is to be able to allow that to update automatically through those connections. So for example, a title change. If it used to be called Intro to Math and now it's called Math for the Real World, you won't have to go into every program that has that course and update that change. It would automatically update across the board, and you would only need to submit the single proposal for that course title change.
Great, that sounds awesome. And this is, I guess, a more general question, but it's always tricky is when you get a new product, new service, new solution, how do you get people to buy in? How do you get people to use it, once you've got it implemented?
Yes, that is very tricky with any system or software that you're trying to implement. I think for me, because I was there during implementation for, or implementing Kwali from a paper process. And I think having a modern and familiar, easy to use user experience is a big help, because no one wants to be confused. So if they have something that is familiar and modern and they know what it looks like and how to use it, it's way easier to get buy-in. having everything in that one spot, like Joni had mentioned, that one place, one solution. So people aren't trying to navigate 5 different systems or different websites to try and get their information in. And then I'd say listening to and validating their concerns, because it is hard to put in a system, and finding their pain points and then showing them how those can be resolved with a digital solution or with whatever software it is that you're talking to them about. So focusing on those benefits and making it specific to them, and definitely having like trainings and workshops to allow them to ask all of their questions or to have one-on-one help with different pieces. And then the final thing I'd add with that is self-service resources. So one, being able to actually use the software on their own, like through reporting or through that personalized dashboard, but also those resources to get the help that they need without having to go ask people. Because sometimes it's embarrassing to be like, okay, I asked you this last week, but now I don't remember again. That can be embarrassing. So instead, having resources online that they can access to get those answers on their own.
And Heather, did you find, I know when we've talked before, you've mentioned maybe having a kind of a champion or picking a few people on campus that you know would be advocates, but then also finding people who, might throw up those roadblocks so that you can work with them early on and know what those are. And I know you've talked to me a little bit about that, but did you find that to be helpful, or if you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, that's great. So definitely having champions is always a plus when trying to get buy-in, but it is really important to include those people that do throw up the roadblocks or are struggling the most with it, because likely their struggles, they're not the only ones that are struggling that way. Maybe they're the most vocal about it, but they're probably not the only ones. So definitely including them. And if they feel like they're getting the help that they need, they are more likely to turn into champions once they see that, oh, actually, this is a better solution, or it is easier for me. And something that makes me think of too is having a software or the actual company that's or open to listening to the customer's pain points. Like having a software company that will say, okay, wait, why is this hard for you? Oh, let me see if we can make some adjustments or how we can make this easier, or put a resource online so that no one else has to come to us with this question. But having someone that isn't dismissive, saying you get what you get, don't throw a fit, right? Is that the the saying?
I don't know if that's the saying, but I do know you have a baby right now, so maybe that's what you tell him when he's throwing a tantrum.
That's what my mom told me. So
okay. Peas or carrots?
Yeah, no, my kid just didn't eat either, and we just had to make our peace with that, I guess. But yeah, I mean, speaking to buy-in, we organize, ACRO organizes basically a member kind of networking group once a month, and one of the topics that's come up recently is the implementation of new technology. And I think the biggest piece there is that it's a good system can't fix a bad process, and I think that's part of it too, is knowing who's involved and what the steps are, knowing, like you said, knowing those pain points in advance and kind of addressing them before you go through the implementation, so people have this expectation of what's expected and how it's going to help them. Definitely is helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a background in training on software in higher ed quite a bit. And one of the things that I noticed was sometimes it just helps to be in the room with people or on a webinar with people. And, you start by saying, this is where we navigate to, and this is where we log in. And as soon as you get them past that initial point, and then have them maybe bring a real life example of something that they could work on, and you work through that with them, one or two times, it seems like it's a lot easier to kind of start that buy-in with that product or new solution, because you're it's not necessarily that you're hand-holding, but you're providing a space for them to begin to learn in a way that feels comfortable. And that doesn't mean only this group of people needs to attend. It's open for anyone to attend, whether you feel like you're a power user of software, or you might not be as comfortable with new systems or learning new systems. So it just sort of helps by kind of walking them through those initial steps to get them going and get people started in a new system.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, thanks for the lots of good insight there for sure. And on the same topic, Mike, how you doing, Mike? We get to see you or read you. What kind of impact or help might be needed from IT departments? They're typically already pretty stretched thin, so it does require a tremendous amount of IT services up front, but after implementation, maybe things kind of drop off. What's asked of those departments?
Yeah, that's a great question. For the IT department, it's usually a couple of things that they tend to help with. So initially, we have them help out with setting up single sign-on, which is just setting up through a form that we utilize. So setting up the ability to utilize your same username and password that the campus is already authenticated with for secure access. We also have the ability for multi-factor authentication. And then the other component that IT is usually involved with is if you'd like to utilize the SIS connector or set up other API integrations. A lot of times the SIS connector takes place towards the end of the implementation or the project, so you can prepare time in advance. Although you don't have to utilize any integration or any SIS connector for Kwali curriculum management to work or be successful. So it's really up to you in terms of, do we have those IT resources right now to focus on this, or do we need to do that at a later time? So it's kind of flexible in that way. And Heather, I don't know if you'd add anything else or if I missed anything.
I would just add then to that, after implementation, this software is meant to reduce the need to go to IT. So after implementation, it's putting all of the capability to reiterate or to make any changes in the hands of the admins rather than having to go to IT.
Yeah, thanks for that question. Another good one. Don't see, we got about 10 minutes before our time is technically up, so give it if another question comes in, but I wanted to throw the ball back to you, Joni, and see if you had any kind of closing comments. And if a question comes in, I'll jump in and interrupt you.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate that. And Heather, if you want to just, there you go, flip to the next slide. So we already had this question a little bit earlier, but we were going to mention that we will be at the ACRO conference. So Heather and I will be representing Kwali. We'll be in booth 607 in the exhibit hall. So feel free to stop by, say hi. And then we also mentioned the One Tree Planted campaign that we're doing. It's a nonprofit that's dedicated to global reforestation that I mentioned a little earlier. So their mission is to really reforest the planet one tree at a time. And our mission is to be a part of that change with all of you. So again, please stop by the booth, sign your name, and we'll plant a tree for each person that comes by. With Kwali, again, you'll save paper. And in response, we're going to plant that tree to show how we can really double the impact together. It's a way to help demonstrate how we can not only elevate that impact, but do it through partnership and community. We also have an upcoming annual user conference, and we call that our Kwali Days user conference, and that's going to be from May 9th to the 13th. Typically, we hold this in February each year. Because of the pandemic, we pushed it off a little bit. And this conference is virtual, and it has a mix of different sessions that we offer each year for customers, including product training, customer-led sessions, and different panel discussions. And what we do for non-customers or people who are just kind of considering Kwali or want to learn more, we welcome those attendees who are considering it to attend on our customer session day, which is on Wednesday. So you can just reach out to us through the information we'll give you again in a second to get more information. But we have sessions, for example, from Arizona State University and a few other of our partners. So we'd be happy to have you join us for those. Heather shared this earlier, but if you're interested in learning more, or if you'd like to reach out to us for another reason, our main website link for the student product line is kwali.co/products/student. If you do go to kwali.co, you'll notice that there are other business lines or product lines that are associated with Kwali. So you'll notice things like, for example, we have Kwali Research, Kwali Financials, Kwali Build, and as well as Kwali Student, which is what we focused on today. And I'm missing one, Heather.
Ready.
Kwali Ready, yes, which is a business continuity planning tool. And then you can reach us at experience@kwali.co. And really, if there aren't any other questions, we really do appreciate everyone's time today. We appreciate your attendance. We appreciate your engagement on the polls. Heather and I and our team, Brandy and others at Kwali, had a great time putting together the polls and trying to anticipate maybe how people might respond. So it was good to get that feedback. And we really look forward to hopefully connecting with you at the conference or connecting with you through our website or email soon. So I'll let Heather say thank you. And from me, I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Yes, and I'll just reiterate everything that Joni said. So thank you for listening to my presentation here. And you're also welcome to reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's another platform that I am at regularly. So just Heather Anderson, you'll see the big Kwali banner and know that it's me. And yeah, I'm excited to see more of you at ACRO.
And a special thank you to Mike and Christina for hosting us from ACRO today and helping lead and make sure we got through this. So we appreciate it. And thank you, Mike.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to all of you for attending. We, as you probably are already aware, we recorded this session, so it should be available using the same link that you used to access this live session in about 30 minutes. It takes Zoom a little bit to get everything processed. And yeah, otherwise, we hope we see you all in Portland. Should be good weather. Not too rainy, yeah.
I'm coming from Minneapolis, so I think anything can be better than the cold.
All right. Thanks,
you.
everyone. Enjoy the rest of your days.
Bye.